introduce you guys Regan and Brian, two of the directors of Imperfect. We're waiting for Neha to come up. She's going to be moderating the Q&A for you guys. How did you guys like the film? Yeah? Good, good. All right, well, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. Do you guys want to say a couple words before we get started about the film, the process?
Sure. Well, first, I guess, thank you to Cleveland International Film Festival for having us. Yeah, we're just thrilled to be here and thrilled to be getting this story out. I think one of the things that we are really passionate about is telling the story not only of this theater company, of family in Denver, but of all the individuals who are in the theater company and really showing a more robust, in-depth aspect of folks with disabilities of all different kinds. So hopefully that came through. But now we have Neha, so yeah.
I'm here. I did go to the wrong theater for a second. So I know you're the artistic director of the theater, but how did this documentary come to be? Like, did you have the idea or just like, yeah, I want to know how it started because it's just so interesting to me.
Yeah, well, and so I'm actually now the former artistic director of Family, because as you saw at the end, I left to kind of return to acting and some other artistic pursuits. But I mean, Brian and I met because he was working on some other projects with Craig Hospital, where I did my spinal cord injury rehab in Colorado after my injury, and we were talking about, you know, again, the importance of not only this unique company that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world, but also of these actors and human beings, and really the need to humanize people with disabilities in a way that we don't often see. You know, a lot of the time when we see stories that are told about people with disabilities, it's often dealing directly with their disability, you know, going through a hospitalization or, you know, coming to terms with XYZ, you know, and we wanted to show people living and performing and doing what they love. And so we just felt like it was an important project to take on together.
Yeah, yes.
So what was it like to make this behind the scenes documentary? Like, did you ask the cast, like, hey, we want to do this? Or did it like, or was it just like, we're going to do this and you're going to be a part of it?
Yes. No, we asked everyone. Everyone was very cooperative. So, and excited actually, because I think that oftentimes these are folks who are overlooked, frankly. And I thought it was really nice to be able to shine the spotlight on a lot of these actors. As you saw, you know, Lucy, when she was with us, was still a prima donna. So it was lovely to be able to give her the spotlight that she, you know, so deserved and craved all the time. So yeah, it was very collaborative and friendly. Throughout the process. There were, you know, a few emotional moments, as there are in any great storytelling, but, you know, we're all still friends.
I'm curious, how many hours of footage did you film?
82 hours and 37 minutes and 46 seconds.
Is that the real number, or did you make it up?
I just made it up. It was about 80 hours. And 14 frames.
How long did it take you to go through all of it? Like, how do you even begin to like piece together something like that, you know?
We had an 82-hour film, and then we just made selects. It was great. We kind of I like to lay everything out in a really long line. That way it's not so overwhelming. And it's kind of like a cross-country road trip in a way. And so Regan and I, you know, I will say there's one good thing about the pandemic is that we had a lot of time on our hands because pretty much everything shut down. So Regan and I just kind of hunkered down in the basement studio, and, you know, we just took our time going through every frame of that video and looked for the real genuine moments and the real nuances. And I think that's what really made the difference, is that we slowed this process down, and we had the time, and we had the you know, the luxury, I guess, of time to be able to do that.
So what was your favorite job being or what was your favorite part of your former job being the artistic director at the theater?
I'm assuming that one's for me. No, you know, so I started performing with family. I was injured about 20 years ago, and a few years after I was injured, I had been aware of family growing up in Denver, but in order to audition, you had to have a disability, and growing up, I didn't have a disability. So when I came back to Denver, some family friends said, "Oh, you should get involved," and I was like, because you know, as I said in the film, I was very hesitant to embrace this identity of disability because of all the messages that come with that identity of disability out in our society. You know, that it's undesirable, that it's something you want to avoid. And so it took me a while to kind of come to terms with that, but I did, and ultimately started performing with family, and they truly became my F family as well as my PH family. So I think, you know, as Brian said, we are still friends with everybody, and more than that, you know, it was an intention of ours in this film that we wanted everyone to feel good coming away from it and not feel like you know, we had misrepresented anyone, and I think we did a good job of that. And so, I mean, truly, just the experience of being with this PH family. If any of you ever go to Denver or get that opportunity, you know, the company, it's not just a company, it's a community, it's an F family. And so I think, therefore, all of the above, just spending time. I mean, that's why every time we've gone to a film festival thus far, you know, I don't have to sit and watch the film, but I do, because I'm just like, these are my friends. I get to spend some time with them. So yeah, and as you saw, it was also challenging balancing all the different elements of the show, and when you add on top of that 25 actors who have 25 unique disability situations, and but it really teaches you a lot about compromise and humanity and love, as Leonard says in the film, that if we could all just offer each other a little more consideration in this world, then maybe we'd be in a better place.
For both of you, what's next?
No, you go ahead.
Well, as you saw at the end, I left my position at family. I'm still very much in touch with them. I adore them. I've moved to Washington, D.C. area, where I'm working as an actor and kind of doing other disability advocacy jobs. I'm currently working on an original show about Franklin Delano Roosevelt, where I will be playing FDR, and it's kind of a cabaret musing on leadership. So that's what I'm putting a lot of my time into right now.
And I'm available.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Yes, just all the way up here. Oh, project.
Does family do straight plays and musicals? So you picked this kind of hard, you know, to do this. What were your choices? What were your choices when you were, you know, ready to direct a play?
So the question was, does family do both straight plays or non-musicals as well as musicals, and kind of the process of choosing Chicago for this? Yeah, and the answer is yes, family does non-musicals, musicals, and original work. And when we were approaching the 30th anniversary of Family, it was founded in 1989 by five performers with disabilities who wanted to perform and felt like they had nowhere to perform, and so they formed their own company. And so as we were approaching the 30th anniversary, you know, I knew that I wanted to do something that was big and well known, and that people would, you know, maybe be surprised by and say, oh, that's, I mean, as usually everybody does, whenever they hear what Family is doing, they're often very intrigued by, what is that going to look like? How's that going to work? And you know, again, like I said in the film, Chicago is just a beloved musical, and so we knew that it would be something that would be, you know, an edgy and kind of risque opportunity for our actors too, who often don't get that. You know, they're thought of as like being in the kids shows, but there's nothing wrong with kids shows or educational shows, but to do something adult and that has dark humor and a lot of edge was really intriguing and exciting to us. So yeah, but it's a hard decision, and you know, we try to think of Family does shows that do have disability written into them and don't have disability written into them, and it always, I will say, you know, especially looking at some of the Oscar winners that just happened, you know, there's always an interesting layer that comes out if you cast somebody who has a unique identity and a disability identity in a role, regardless of whether it calls for it, because it just exposes us to a different side of humanity.
Are there any other questions? So whenever you form like an idea for a play, like your FDR, like how do you start the process for that?
Well, and maybe you could also speak to this as a filmmaker. I mean, for me, I guess it just comes from, often I will feel like there's something I need to say or need to do, you know, and fortunately, I feel like I have a platform to do that, but sometimes you just, I don't know, I'll get very agitated sometimes late at night or in the middle of the night, and I'll just start, you know, writing something on my phone, and then I think, how do I turn this into something that I can do, that I can put out there, you know, so that people will come see it and we can engage on this topic. So FDR, that show specifically came about from talking to a friend of mine when I was working up at Oregon Shakespeare Festival, and we were just saying, you know, FDR, his disability was part of what made him an extraordinary leader, but we don't get that side of the story with him. And we didn't when he was alive because he hid it and had the press hide it. So we were really intrigued about digging into that and showing that side of the story.
Yeah. I just go along for the ride, honestly. And I know that sounds kind of coy. I don't mean to sound coy, but, you know, I think my skill is being able to identify really good stories when I see it or when I witness it, and you know, I just kind of show up with the camera and then let the people, the humans, do their thing in front of the lens, and I think that's kind of like the quiet art form that I like to do is, you know, everybody talks and does stuff and everything. And I like just kind of setting up the lens and watching all this human activity come in and out of the frame. And you just never know what you're going to come up with. And it's usually pretty remarkable by just being an observer of, it's kind of like sitting on a park bench maybe and watching the world go by in a way, and I just think that there's beauty in the human experience if you just kind of, you know, shut up and let it happen and not try to, I don't know, I will say this, I've evolved as a filmmaker in that I used to try to, you know, make a point with a film or get up on a soapbox or something, and you know, it's really hard for me to watch those older films now, and for me it's really more of a passive experience for me now, and I don't know, I really like the idea of just letting humans do what they're going to do, and then you tell the story how it is. You know, a lot comes out in the editing, of course, but it really is just kind of that more organic observation of the human condition. I think, for me, at least the direction I'm going now, seems to be kind of a good direction to go.
Yeah, so you didn't like come up with like a script. Well, obviously it's a documentary, but you're like, okay, we need to get people like, let's hope for a romance, or like let's hope for all these things.
Yeah, we told Adam to blow his line in audition, and that actually took seven takes because he was so good that, no, I'm kidding.
So the story really came together when you were editing it, basically, yeah.
We didn't know what we had, really. It's a lot like kind of sifting, you know, through sludge to find the gold nuggets, kind of panning for gold in a way. But those nuggets are there, and that's kind of the beauty of editing. That's actually my favorite part, and why I'm, you know, kind of I don't know, maybe known or at least I feel like that's my strong suit is being able to find those moments in the lens and then just pick them out little by little and just make little scene necklaces. They're like little slices of edits and across the timeline. And sometimes you just play them and it's like, whoa, that's cool. And then it's kind of like putting a puzzle together. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Gentleman right back behind.
Oh, yes, I'll take it.
Okay, thank you
Okay.
very much.
Sorry.